Today on Hidden Human, we're talking to Amber Douglas, creator of Girl Get Real. Amber is amazing. She is a champion of radical self-care. She talks to us about the need for diverse voices in the industry and the importance of prioritizing mental and emotional self-care. So take a listen because Amber is just a delight. Let's begin our conversation with Amber Douglas, creator of Girl Get Real, supermodel, pop star. This is what she told me
Stop.
offline, and I'm big into words create our reality. So if that's what you want, let's speak it. Let's speak
Yes,
it into existence.
yes, I believe the exact same thing. There's really nothing that we can't do. I feel like it all comes down to like the right support system and really taking yourself seriously.
Yeah,
Why limit yourself? Is kind of like
exactly.
the whole idea of what I do.
Exactly. Okay, so let's kind of set it up so everybody knows who Amber Douglas is. And let's make a note that she was on Hidden Human at this time because this superstar is really going places. So if I were a 6-year-old child and you were going to explain to me in a way I could understand what you do,
Mhm.
how would you explain that to me?
Okay, so radical self care involves prioritizing yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. But if I had to explain that to a 6-year-old, I would tell them that it might look like learning to become your own best friend. So I know, like, when we were all children, we had an imaginary friend, maybe like you taking the place of that second person to like help guide yourself or protect yourself or just spend time with yourself in a meaningful way.
Yeah, did you have a name of your imaginary friend? I did.
Yeah, well, I had 2.
Okay. Don't
I'm
laugh.
yeah.
Mine's name was Miss Susie. I don't know where the hell that came from, but
Mine were Sabrina and Rachel, and we were unstoppable. So, I wish it was something more creative.
I wish mine was too. I think it was my preschool teacher,
That is so
but
funny.
yeah, but my mom said she would walk in my room and this was, 3, 4 maybe, and she would hear me like talking and playing and all of that. And, I don't exactly remember what Miss Susie
Oh my
did.
gosh, you don't wanna hear like, my mom is always telling me about, like, me, like, when I was little and playing with dolls, like, they would be, like, up on the ceiling and tied up over here. She's like, "What is the storyline? Do you need help?" Like, I'm like, "They're on adventures, silly."
Yeah, exactly. My mom was probably like, putting child psychologist on speed dial. But okay, so we talked about this before, but we had the great Desiree Peterkin Bell on our podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about self-care and the disparity of that between communities. So what made you land on radical self-care?
The creation process of Girl Get Real and, like, me being interested in pursuing a career in self-care, I always like to say that there's no testimony without test. I feel like I've always considered myself to be an ambitious person, a full-time job, hobbies, attending graduate school, now pursuing my third degree, trying to make time for friends. And, I just living a busy life that at times I don't think that I found truly fulfilling. So it wasn't until the pandemic where a lot of those things were stripped away from me that I realized the level of kind of like disrespect and dissatisfaction and disconnection that I felt in like multiple areas of my life. And it kind of became overwhelming. So, in order to kind of navigate that depression, I sought help online. And I found that a lot of the advice that I was receiving was very superficial or just generally unhelpful. Like it made me feel like in order for me to be happy, I had to change who I was inherently. And I did at first. Like the montage of like the main character of the movie who's like switching costumes and like trying to find like the right like look or feel for themselves. Like I've done it all. Like I was doing like the self-help, the yoga, the crystals, like and like not that those things aren't helpful. I just think that like there was no one online saying authenticity is the answer. Like being like learning how to be more comfortable living yourself authentically is the answer. So that is kind of like the creation process of Girl Get Real. And then on the flip side of this, I was in graduate school learning about misrepresentation of Black women in media. And so I sought then to create a platform to negate that and to kind of flip it and, I don't know, create at least a cyberspace where you can feel celebrated and uplifted for being yourself.
In the beginning, one of my coaches, one of my teachers, Byron Katie, says, "If you wanna meet the love of your life, look in the mirror."
That's beautiful.
But it's true, and when I wanna kind of address not kind of address, let me address the trope of the angry Black woman. So I've been on this journey as, and I'm gonna call myself an accomplice, an aspiring accomplice, because I try to earn it every day since I was 19. And as I hear these stories of the things that Black women endure, I'm like, if I was Black woman, this world would be on fire. Like I would be setting shit on fire because the things that y'all have endured is shameful, it's fatal, it's not fair. And for me, the privilege that I have of the Black women in my life, when you say Black girl magic, it's real. I mean, I've seen it, I've felt it. It's amazing. So for you to find joy as resistance is really it's inspiring. It is, and you're a little bit less seasoned than I am. I'm 48, so for you to find it at such a early time in your life, for me is I admire that. I admire that 'cause it took me a long time. It took me till I was 40 to get into my favorite song on the Renaissance album, which is "Cozy."
I'm not gonna get into it because we're gonna be on that topic for a while, but Cowboy Carter, like I did not like country until Cowboy Carter.
Let's just talk about that album for a second. Do you really think it's country? I mean, I think it's like she said, it's not a country album, it's a Beyonce album. And I agree with that. I mean, obviously she's got Dolly and Miley and Willie Nelson, and those are definitely country, but I feel like it's so much more than that.
It is so much more than that. That's a great point, and I like the conversation about genre. And it's much like the conversation about like disciplines in school, especially when you're learning about identity. You can't learn one subject without it in relation with other things. So I think like her album mixing genres is like a good point of that. You can have you can have it all is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to you don't have to stick to like the same thing that like everyone else is doing. And I think that's kind of what Girl Get Real speaks to as well. There isn't one way to do country. There isn't a right way to live. Like there is no perfect equation. It's whatever works best for you. In her head, if it's a country album, it's a country album to me. That's what you said.
That's such a powerful distinction. Not everybody can follow the recipe. Like you're right. As I was kind of doing my research on you, and I don't do a lot because I like to kind of come with a clean slate and not have anything sort of sway it. But one of the things that I get annoyed with, which I'm an executive coach, so I orbit in those spaces, is that these self-care courses that are thousands of dollars that are not accessible to everybody are not really what everybody needs. Like I try to teach my clients techniques that they can do anywhere that don't cost anything and maybe take a second to get your central nervous system back online. But how would you describe your leadership philosophy and how do you think it's evolved over time?
As a person who is learning to center themselves, I don't know if I would have considered myself a leader then. Now I feel like I definitely am, and my philosophy is that we're all learning together. As I learn new things, I'm going back to the blog and I'm relaying that information and making it accessible to diverse audiences. You're right, not everybody has the money to buy a course, but I'm sure everybody has, you know, the time and space to read a free blog. Like there are multiple ways you can go to the library and go on a free computer and read Girl Get Real. If you have Instagram, it's right there. All it takes is Wi-Fi, and I know that's not completely accessible everywhere, but it certainly is more accessible than the $1 billion course that is selling you fluff, essentially.
Yeah, like, I always try so when I bring a technique to my clients, I'm beta testing it on me first, right? So, like, I'll tell you a quick funny story. So, there's a thing called a primal scream
Okay.
because, in my world, if you look at the word emotion, it's energy in motion, and a lot of times when you get stressed, it's stuck energy. So, I'm in the shower and I'm trying this primal scream thing, and my poor husband comes running up. He's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing. I'm just texting."
I'm
He's
just screaming.
I'm just screaming. So
Shout.
now I do it in my car because it's soundproof, and one of the things I love to do is put on Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train, and when the first note drops, I scream like,
In your car is perfect. I feel like in the car, put the windows down while you're on the highway, and like you can't hear, and you can hear yourself because the wind, like that's the perfect time to primal scream.
"Oh my gosh, see? Free
Mhm.
tip from Amber, we love this." But was there a defining moment in your life that really woke you up and shifted you?
It's not one thing that's happened to me. I think it's an accumulation of the same, like the repetition of learning the same lesson until you actually learn it and do something about it. And that lesson was the lesson of trying to prioritizing assimilation over just like existing and starring in my own life. I feel like as a child, like I am a military child, so I a lot of my life has been like socially learning like the social codes of each place that I live in. Okay, what do I need to like change, or what do I need to mirror in order to like fit in and survive in this space? And across the country that looks very different, and you start to lose like, okay, well, what am I actually interested in, or what do I actually care about, versus what's the conversation that I need to join. And I think that growing up having to do that, and then moving forward into being an adult who didn't really have the communication skills to communicate how I thought or felt, or I didn't even know where to start on like learning that about myself. I think that life kept showing me like this is only going to you're only going to meet people who like that about you. Like they like that you're dimming your light. They they see that you are meant to be like a great person, or that you have great energy, and they want to kind of be an energy vampire and like use that to help make themselves feel better. And I think the pandemic was the defining moment where I kind of like saw that it was taking a toll on me. I had no energy for myself. Like I had nothing else to give. And at that point, I needed help. So I went to therapy, and I kind of started to work through it. And that process what is what I would call my own radical self-care journey. And now I'm kind of out of digging myself out of that hole, and now I'm on new ground. Now my radical self-care journey is, what do I build off of this solid foundation that I've created for myself? So that is what I'm trying to give back to other people, because I've learned that you are the only person that can pull yourself out of that space.
We talk all the time in my practice and with my friends and colleagues about choice, and that you cause and you affect things based on your choices. And I loved what you said about the military because I don't know if you had any idea, but my husband was 20 years in the Navy, and we were in Norfolk, Virginia for, let's see, I was there from 2005 to 2013, and that area of the country is not a good fit for me. It's just not. I looked very different, and I didn't fit. Like, I'm not good with the whole bless your heart kinda thing. Like, if you don't like me, tell me and don't talk to me. That's fine. We don't have to, like each other, but don't fake it, which a lot of people do, and I hear you, and a lot of the military, and listen, I respect the men and women and humans that protect our country and preserve the blanket of freedom that we all enjoy and take advantage of, but it's really about conformity. Okay, so what is the most challenging leadership situation you've been in, and how did you navigate it?
I would have to say people taking me seriously. Like you said, like I am kind of new. Just like in life, like I'm only 28 and I am trying to like move from like a student mentality to like a fully autonomous like grown adult who is advocating for people to like prioritize themselves. And sometimes, based on my age or based on like the color of my skin, I don't garner the same respect that maybe a cisgendered white male presenting person would. So I think that like that's definitely something that I have to overcome externally, but also internally too, because I am trying to work get over that in order to like reach like a higher purpose. And then I think internally it's been imposter syndrome. It's why you? Like anybody there are a lot of like people talking about self-care, self-love, the beauty industry. It's very like overly saturated at this point. Everybody is a content creator, everybody is an influencer. Why does the world need Amber Douglas to talk about this? And I think that that is such a toxic, thing to like hold in my head, and a very limiting belief that I work very hard to overcome every day. I tell myself, there is no perfect answer. There is no right answer. I just know that doing this makes me happy. And I want to work towards like creating a happier life for myself and all help make a difference for other people. I ultimately want to create a career that I'm passionate about, that I find fulfilling. And as long as I follow the breadcrumbs that my intuition is like leading me to walk towards, um, that's why Amber Douglas needs to be talking about radical self care, because she wants to. And that's a full sentence and a meaningful sentence.
Why not you? I mean, there's never been an Amber Douglas before, and whenever we transition, wherever we go, there's never gonna be another one of you ever.
Right.
And what I would say about imposter syndrome is, first of all, you're not alone. 70%, 70, of the global population has it. And usually when my clients have it, I'll say, okay, who's telling you that? Because usually it's never an outside source, it's us. And I had that. I remember last year when I was at the National Security Seminar, and I was one of 160 civilians invited in the globe. And I walked into this room and I'm like, the hell am I doing? And what was interesting, and I did not expect this because I really believe in what you were talking about with white cisgender males, is I walked up to a table with two older white cisgender males, and I was like, I blurted it out. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing in this room. And they looked at me and they were like, nobody does. And I thought, oh my God, that's, first of all, that's amazing that they admitted it.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't expect to find comfort in that source.
Right.
So keep doing what you're doing. I mean, I
Oh,
watch your Instagram lives, and so talk about that. Where did that come from?
what happened was I went to class and I was actually going to skip class that day because it was raining, like a torrential downpour. And Ernest Owens was the guest speaker in the class. And he did an amazing job. And he was talking about DEI, his DEI work. And I just resonated with what he was saying. And he was so passionate that I asked him to follow Girl Get Real on Instagram. And it ended up being like leading to a conversation where he was kind of giving me like advice, like a mentor mentee situation. And I was like, I don't want to stop talking to this guy. Like I want to like keep working with him and keep asking, getting to know not just about the business but about him and about how I can help myself in this situation, which led to our collaborated blog post about solo dining. And I wanted to promote it, but I felt nervous asking him out to brunch, and because I was like, we're talking about solo dining. Like, I thought it would be cool if we got brunch, but we weren't there yet. Like, so I was like, what if we just did a video together? Like, what if we just did an Instagram live? Because before him, my last collaboration was with my professor, Dr. J. She is a sex educator, and I did a blog collaboration with her, and it was a very interesting interview. I just wish that I had some sort of video or like made it more accessible and more in more ways that other people could like get the information that she was talking about, because like she is a genius. And I didn't want to make the same, not a mistake, but I just wanted to make sure that the work that I'm doing is being seen in a bigger way. So I invited him to do an Instagram live together, and that was my first time being on live camera at all, so I was a wreck. But it was so conversational, and it was so great to have him, and now it's something that we do monthly, and it's a great experience, and it's allowed me to connect with the girls every month, outside of the weekly blog posts that come out.
Tell our listeners how they can join. Like, when is it, and how do they do that?
The blog posts are at girl triple R GRRRL getreal.com. So that's the blog. And then I promote the blog on Instagram at girl get real. And you can obviously follow my personal Instagram at amber.leasia. That's my middle name. I love it. Leasia. And you'll see content on any of those platforms, specifically on Wednesdays. That's when a blog post comes out weekly, every Wednesday. And on the last Wednesday of every month, we do a girls' night in event. And I have an expert from a varying industry. So he is the editor of Philly Eater. So we were talking about solo dining. I just had hair by Aaron Quinn. He's a hairstylist. We were talking about the Black hair experience as radical self care. And then next month, no spoilers, but we are having a skincare specialist.
So I want to kind of share a story with you about Ernest. So when he first launched his podcast, Earnestly Speaking, several years ago, I think it was during the pandemic. I had such a good time, and we had so many parallels. Like, he's from the South. I grew up in South Florida. He was born in Chicago. I got my coach certificate in Chicago. I mean, it was all of those things, and it was a great moment. And then I started building a coaching cohort where we have about 50 coaches all over the world, and every manifestation you can, from indigenous coaches to, um, we have a transgender coach who used to be an executive at PNC. I mean, just you name it, whoever manifests, however they manifest is in this, right? And I wanted Ernest. So the call went like this. So I have this cohort, and I'd really like you to be in it. And so I'm kind of nervous asking. I mean, it was literally word vomit. And he went, yes. And I was like,
Right.
really?
He just talks like it's just that simple. Like, of course. Meanwhile, I just blacked out. I don't remember what we talked.
Yeah, exactly. Don't think it's just you. It's me too. I mean, I was like, now we've become friends and attended each other's events. He's been to my house, like all of that, and it's gotten a little bit better, but I still get butterflies in my stomach talking to him, even though I've known him for 4 years. And yeah, so
I have butterflies right now talking to you. So
oh, okay, we'll pull from the great Queen Bee. Get those butterflies flying in formation, and you'll be fine.
okay.
You'll
Y'all
be
better
fine.
flutter.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You get me a flutter too, because we're reflections of each other. And I always feel like, for me, it's looking for the loving essence in people. I mean, really, at the core of us, that's who we are, and we're no different. We're just at Earth School trying to learn lessons till we go home, wherever that is. But let's talk about diversity and inclusion. Why, in your mind, is diversity and inclusion, and I'll add belonging, important in leadership? And how do you implement those leadership practices in your business and in your life?
I think that diversity and inclusion is essential because relation is the tool that is going to achieve liberation. Um, we need accurate uh, an inclusive representation in everything that we do, because everybody needs to be able to, number one, see themselves in work and be able to relate to stories. Stories help move us. And if I'm not included, if a diverse, like I'm thinking from a media lens because my degree is communications, but if I'm looking at a story and I don't see myself, how am I supposed to then relate to it? And then also, if on the flip side of that, if there is an inaccurate misrepresentation of me on screen, what is that teaching the rest of the world about me? People, there are some parts of the world that have, or people that exist that have never met a Black person before. If you're going specifically off of on-screen portrayals, I'm not sure what you would expect meeting me. And then that creates social structures in real life where Black people have to have the pressure to perform to that stereotype or be kept in that box. Like, you are only allowed, like, speaking back to like the strong Black woman stereotype, I am more than just strong. And sometimes, what if I don't feel like being strong? Please, I am not one of God's strongest soldiers.
Yeah.
Like, there's so
Yeah.
much more to just people and honoring your full humanness in general, that I think that's why diversity and inclusion is important. You should see me, even like people who are like, you are so strong in a positive way. You need to be able to see me as more than strong. You need to see me as a creative. You need to see me as unique. You need to see me as intelligent. And I think that's why diversity and inclusion is important, because it helps each of us see the full humanness of each other. And that is what we can relate to. And that is what's going to help us all achieve freedom in a more just and equitable way.
Yeah, I mean, I told you when we started, before we started recording, that the whole reason Hidden Human came was because all of these people were coming at me and saying, "And network events, what do you do?" Right? And I was like, I'm not just my job, you know? And people say that to me all the time. You're so strong, and or you're such a light. And I'm like, really? Because I'm cussing in the background and I'm
Right.
actually really pissed off at what's going on. And to your point about coloring how you see the world, I always use myself as an example. So growing up, I grew up in Palm Beach County. I went to a private Catholic girls' school. And just to kind of like compare, my best friends from Syracuse, her parents were two public school teachers. Okay. So I'm in private school where my parents are paying a lot of money. And I always use this comparison. What I learned about Harriet Tubman was that she was part of the Underground Railroad. My best friend, who's going to public school in Syracuse, finds out that she is, the most wanted woman, that she dressed as a man, that she stood in a field and called the enslaved people a song. She helped them like all of these things I didn't learn. And I said to my parents, I said, I feel like you wasted your money, and I feel like I was robbed because I didn't learn that. And now with this talk about rewriting history, and that is going to create a demographic of humans who are completely skewed and don't see the richness of life.
Learning one perspective of history is doing yourself, and I guess like the future students or even like the past students that have only learned one version of history, a disservice, because there are multiple layers to things that have happened. Black history is not an addendum to traditional history. It is history and should
Yes.
be taught in that way. So I completely understand what you're saying.
The stories we hear about these, like, well, let's use Abe Lincoln as an example. Like, yes, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Yes, he did. But what they don't talk about is how he wiped an entire population of indigenous people off the planet by making the railroad go west. And it's like, again, we're missing out on the richness and the fullness of life if you don't understand other people's experiences.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I really resonate with that. So, in terms of the future of leadership, Amber, what changes or trends do you foresee in, like, leadership practices or in the coming years?
Future generations are not putting up with it. Like they are I'm very proud in the respect that they are maybe because of the generation before them and the work that they are doing, they don't have to learn the oh, how do I put myself first? Like they're already like I matter, what's next? And I love that. Like I think that like we should all be working towards like unlearning, relearning, and learning new things that help us understand that you are deserving and that you come first, especially in like the work field where I feel like speaking to like this idea of the American dream is like you're essentially a cog in the machine and like you were not born onto this planet to be a machine. You are not a robot. You're a human. So I think that there a lot more conversations about mental and emotional health than there were in the past. And I think that that's not going to change. I think people are prioritizing a people first mentality. And I think that radical self care is a part of that conversation.
So, let's go back to Amber in her room where she's tying dolls and all of that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, if you could speak to her now from where you are, what one bit of advice would you give to her?
Your uniqueness is your power. You are different as we all are. We are all individuals and you do not have to change that about yourself. You are not too much. You are a very kind, very special, very intuitive person, and you should protect that about yourself. Anybody who sees that as a problem is not for you, and you should continue to follow what makes you happy. You can do anything that you want to, and I love you.
Yeah, oh, I mean, just, you just are such a gift. I mean,
Thank you so much.
wow. Wow. Just, I mean, I posted about joy as resistance a couple weeks ago on my podcast and or my Instagram feed and TikTok. And one of the things I was thinking about is when God said, "Let there be light," sparks of beautiful humans came out. And to me, you're one of those sparks in the darkness. So thank you for that. Thank you. And thank you for being a model of what's possible. It's breathtaking. It really is. So, are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, what's your favorite comfort food?
My favorite comfort food is anything chocolate. Chocolate is a cure all. Whatever you're going through, go get you a Reese's cup. Peanut butter and chocolate, especially, that's like taking it to the next level. That's ecstasy.
Heck yeah.
Are
Heck
you a
yeah.
chocolate person or are you more like
Oh, am I a chocolate person? My husband's like, "What do you want? I'm going to the store." I'm like, "Chocolate."
just get chocolate?
Just
Like,
get chocolate. And he's like, "You can't just eat chocolate." I'm like,
yes, I
"But
can.
babe, if it's 70%, then it's it's antioxidants and all of that." So, what songs are on your playlist?
So right now it's a lot of dance music. It's a lot of upbeat. It's a lot of like let's go out and be seen. And just in general, I feel like I have a very eclectic taste in music, but some of my favorites, like my staples are like Drake, Nicki Minaj, Beyonce for sure. I love Lana Del Rey, Summer Walker, Paramore, Panic at the Disco. I do listen to rock as well. Like I went through like a little rock phase. I don't have like anyone in particular, just like AC/DC a little bit, just like
Amber.
is that the wrong answer or the right
No,
one?
no, a woman after my own heart. Like, okay, so on their Back in Black album, what's your favorite?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to tell you, like, I'm not, like, a deep dive into, like, different genres, but, like, the, like, popular like, I Was Made for Loving You, like wait, that's Kiss. I love that, like, I love, like, all, like, the popular songs from, like, different genres.
Okay, so listen to Hell's Bells, listen to Thunderstruck, and obviously Shook Me All Night Long. I love a little nasty in my in
Ooh,
my music.
she real nasty. It is
I
9:55 in the morning.
That's okay. There's always room for nasty, right? Okay. So, what books are on your nightstand?
So right now, I'm trying to make a greater effort to romanticize my life. So I've been trying to watch more romance movies and read more romance books. So right now, I'm reading "The Sun Is Also a Star" by Nicola Yoon. But my favorite book to return to is "The Alchemist." I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it, but it's the perfect book to read and revisit during your radical self care journey.
Yeah, it's great. Paulo Coelho is just a genius,
I love
and
that.
yeah, it's an easy read because it's a fable, and if you haven't gotten it yet, definitely get Meerbott's Fables because I think you like it.
I will.
Okay. Okay, what are you most grateful for in this moment right now?
First, there isn't a day where I don't thank the universe for my family. They are my support system, my cheerleaders, my safe space, and also the people who keep me most grounded. They remind me that there's nothing that I can't do in this world and that they will do everything in their power to help me achieve it. And I'm also grateful for the past versions of myself. I feel like in the realm of self improvement and self growth, your past version gets a little bit of a bad rep because you're trying to evolve from her. But in reality, she was the version of myself that created the opportunities for me to succeed now and in the future. So I'm very appreciative of, her deciding to move forward, even if she felt she wasn't fully prepared.
So I'm gonna thank Amber Douglas, aspiring supermodel, pop star, creator of Girl Get Real. Definitely follow her on Instagram, read her blog. If you get the opportunity, do a girls' night in. I hope someday I get to be invited to be a guest. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But to our audience, thank you for listening. It's our intention on Hidden Human to inspire you to go out and have authentic conversations to deepen the connections in your life. Thank you so much. Thank you, Amber, and make it a great day.